In this video we'll be looking at the auxiliary sends, the matrices, how to send contributions to those channels, and options that we have for the auxiliary sends. Let's dive in. Previously I patched a input into, so I'm going to go ahead and plug something into my auxiliary inputs, 2.5mm jack. I'm just plugging in my iPhone just to get a signal going. Alright, so I've got a signal. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my speakers for now, but let the signal run through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what this mix master section is about. That's this section here. These buttons on the right are what you use to select what you see on the screen, on the lower half of the screen right here. So what I'm going to look at is auxiliary send 1 through 8 on the top half, and I can look at 9 through 16 on the bottom half. I can look at matrix 1 through 8. On this Pro 3 I don't have additional matrices, but if you have a Pro 6 or 9 you'd have matrices 9 through 16. I can also look at my 8 aux returns here, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave that at auxiliary send 9 through 16. We're only using the first two right now. To select an auxiliary send, I can press the blue button underneath. That is the same as a select button for an input channel. So once I select that, this detail area becomes the detail area for that selected aux send. The master for that aux send is controlled by this knob here, and the representation for the current level is located on the screen right there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that up to unity. And I'm going to go back over to that audio source I had earlier. I'm going to select the left channel, and I'm going to find auxiliary 1, and I'm going to increase the volume for that one, and we should see that meter rise for auxiliary 1. So now we see there's audio coming in with this input. We're sending it to auxiliary send 1, and we see the audio sending out of auxiliary 1. I think I patched it to one of the inputs, or one of the outputs on the back of the stage I/O, so if I had a speaker or an amplifier plugged in there, we would see that signal as well. I'm actually going to go ahead and send to auxiliary send 2 and turn up the master for auxiliary send 2 as well. Now if you noticed, in order to add a contribution to that auxiliary send, I had to select the channel, find the mix bus in this mix area, and then I had to turn one of these knobs to add signal. There is an advanced navigation mode that's in this console. It's called flip mode, and it allows you to flip the contributions for one of these aux sends or matrix sends. Flip those either to the faders or to the pans. In my preferences I've selected to flip to pans. Why? Because if you flip to faders, maybe somebody who isn't as experienced or comfortable with the console will get confused as to what's going on. So I prefer to leave these as always controlling the audio on that channel. So if I flip to pans, I'll go ahead and do that now. I will enable flip mode here, and then I will select auxiliary send 1, and as soon as I press that select button, instead of seeing a pan left and right on these little LCD screens, I see a ramp that goes up. So the lower it is, the smaller the ramp is, and as I turn this pan to the right, that ramp goes up, indicating that I have more signal going to that auxiliary send. And what this allows me to do is go to any channel that I see and add signal to that aux send. This is a lot easier. This method of controlling aux sends, or specifically monitors, is something I'm a lot more comfortable with, so I've decided to use flip mode with pans. It simplifies things for us at our church and our operators. any aux send that I choose, it will instantly represent what's being sent from that channel to that send. Another thing is that there's several different modes available for your auxiliaries. If I select an auxiliary and I choose this top section, there's a mode button that appears, and currently the mode is mix. If I press that mode, it'll show me group. With a group, it will act exactly as a subgroup will, which is different from a VCA. We'll talk about VCAs in a later video, but a subgroup has an audio function. And instead of seeing a ramp that allows me to choose the amount of signal I'm sending to that aux send, I will get an off or on button. So now let's take a look at what that looks like. If I go over here and I select auxiliary left input here, on this summary screen for all of my auxiliary sends, aux send 1 is now an on instead of being a ramp like auxiliary send 2 is. So if I want to join something to a subgroup, I would press on, and if I want to take it off, I press off. Now there's another mode, it's called mix minus, and from what I've read, I've never used it myself. I believe it's used in broadcasting. If you want to cancel out one channel instead of contributing all of the others, you could use that mode. These mode options are only available for the auxiliary sends. They are not available for the matrices. On this board, the matrix and auxiliaries are almost identical. The difference is you can send an auxiliary to a matrix, but you cannot send a matrix to an auxiliary. Let me show you what I mean. If I select a matrix, my options here for where I can send this is really nowhere. I can only send it to stereo left and right if I wanted to, or this matrix really is destined to go somewhere else, like a monitor. If I select an auxiliary, say auxiliary 1, I see matrix. So I can send an auxiliary to a matrix, but I cannot send a matrix to an auxiliary, and that's an important distinction to make when you're planning out what you're going to be doing with the board and how you want your auxiliary sends set up. In this video we've looked at matrix sends, auxiliary sends, using advanced navigation modes like flip. So I hope that helps you understand the difference between auxiliary sends and matrices, and the different ways that are available to send your contributions to those buses.